Welcome back to the Young Hearts Run Free podcast, Damian Hall. How are you doing, my man?
Hi, folks. Thanks for having me back. Obviously running low on guests. Thanks for having me back. No, a pleasure to be on.
We did start talking about this in December last year, and you left us with a wee teaser saying, why don't we speak at the end of January, start of February, when I've got something more to speak about? So, what you been up to, man? What's been happening?
If I'm totally honest, I had a winter plan that didn't work out. I was going to go for a not a huge record thing, but like I've been trying to fit in a winter round for a few years, and I didn't. Again, it didn't fit into sort of my life. So I was sort of half hoping to be able to tell you about that. But I suppose the other thing, it's not that exciting. I mean, I switched sponsors recently after 8 years with Innovate. I don't know how interesting that is to people. It probably only elite runners perhaps, but I guess that was all I was sort of anticipating. But I've had and yeah, I suppose the other tiny bit of thing I've been doing is I was at the spine race. I didn't do the full spine this time because I'd done it 3 times in a row, and I just thought I wasn't sure if I definitely had the motivation, if I'm honest, to see it through, if it wasn't going brilliantly. So I just thought take a year off to make sure the motivation is there, because it's a long way and it's a hell of a slog, and it's hard to do that if you're feeling disappointed or annoyed with yourself. It takes sort of self laceration and self-loathing to another level. So I just thought, don't needlessly punish yourself again this winter. But I really wanted to be involved in it because I just still love it. Like I think a lot of people do, or increasing amounts of people do. We just had the sign-ups a few days ago for next year, didn't we? And the website, I think it was all right in the end, but it did. Some people said the website crashed again. So, the popularity is just through the roof. And I just love it. And I was lucky. Yeah. So I wanted to be involved. So I did 3 days with the media team, which meant sort of interviewing athletes and friends ultimately. But also making lots of cups of tea for people, which I actually enjoyed a lot more. Which I really, that was really good fun at the various sort of little checkpoints and stuff. And then also they said they've got they're launching a new race called the Sprint North. So basically the last 44 miles of the route. And they got me and Ellie Eccles, who's a GB athlete who's had a couple of really strong summer spine runs. We both sort of ran it as a test run. And actually, I mean, I'm not. They're not employing me to say this. I'm not here to sort of sell the race necessarily. But actually, that's one of the best bits of the route is the last 40 miles, the Cheviots, sorry. And yet, when you do it in the full race or even the Challenger North, you're just a bit of a car wreck by then. So you don't really enjoy it that much. But to just run it sort of fairly fresh was actually really, really nice. And then, I was able to see Kim Coniston come in, Lucy Gossage come in, John Kelly come in. I was, only a few minutes after Lucy. Hang out with Dave Phillips and Tian and some of the top finishers as they came into Kurt Yetone, which is always just really exciting, and Robin Cassidy as well. So that was really rewarding as well, just to see people at the end, talk to them if they wanted to talk. I've still had an exciting couple of weeks, really.
Yeah.
You mentioned switching sponsors. You mentioned who from. You didn't mention who to.
That's not very good. I'm not being a very good ambassador to my new sponsor.
No, I know you're almost one.
I'm not in the habit of saying a different name, but I mean, there's certain things I can't really say, but with Innovate, super grateful for their support. 8 years. And I do really believe I simply wouldn't have been able to achieve some of the things I have without their support. They were really, really good to me. And it wasn't just the kind of support that is obvious. it was quite often employees from Innovate would paste me on some of my record attempts, and even like crew me at UTMB and things when, you know, that wasn't in their job description and wasn't, you know, isn't, you know, is crewing fun? I mean, it can be rewarding, but it's hard. It's a hard thing to do, you know, 24 hours, you know, through the night. So I've made good friends there for life, etc. But yeah, it was time to move on, and but yeah, as you guys will know, like, I'm a founding member of the Green Runners and trying to be very conscious about sort of, I mean, climate breakdown and stuff. So it's quite awkward. It's quite awkward, you know, I don't want to promote a brand too much, and I don't want to contribute to overconsumption, I suppose, is the biggest thing. So I need to be with a brand that I suppose really respects that and understands it, and has really good credentials themselves. So I feel very lucky that Normal are taking me on. I've been wearing their shoes for a few months. I don't have any other kit from them yet, so I can't really talk about that. But yeah, I've been wearing their shoes. Really like them so far. And my reservation was they didn't really have a shoe for sort of British terrain, you know, sort of muddy fells. But they have. It's not quite out yet, but they are bringing one out, which I've been trying out, called the Brute or the Brut, which is a good fun. Yeah, really aggressive, light shoe, which is good fun. But really, what impressed me, I mean, there aren't many, if I'm honest, brands I would work with. And I have said goodbye to other sponsors over the last few years, but yeah, Normal they are B Corp certified. They do the 1% for the planet, but it's more than that actually. And they sort of got this no trace program, and they're really trying to push into circularity, which is a lovely word, and that kind of means just reusing the same kit. It's a lovely word that doesn't necessarily work yet, but they're committed to making that work. They're going to launch a resoling program in the UK shortly. They already have that in other countries. Durability, trying to get the best certified cotton and stuff. However, the bigger thing than that, actually, which most brands miss, is it's back to the overconsumption thing of, do we really need a new version of a shoe if it doesn't actually add anything, especially if it's just a new color, you know? So they've committed to sort of, they'll only upgrade collections when there's a better material or a better feature available. The colors are kind of unisex, so there's no kind of waste there if, I don't know, the male or female version doesn't sell out. So actually that sort of producing less idea, that is actually a stronger idea than durability is than I suppose picking all the individual components and materials. That said, they do make all this stuff in Europe, and they're able to trace it, which is actually so they've got a fully transparency on this is getting a bit nerdy, but on the production processes of putting the kit together, they can be fully transparent, whereas most brands can't. And so you don't really know what harm is happening way down the supply chain. But I sense I'm getting a bit too nerdy. But yeah, basically when it comes to running wear, they are sort of top of the tree in terms of those credentials. So that makes it a lot easier for me to work with them, I suppose, is what I'm getting at.
Thank you.
Is somebody giving you a soapbox to stand on? Yeah.
You know what I'm like, wind up a little bit, off I go.
That was very good. That was very good. Sorry, Stephen.
No, I think, you hit a few questions that were on my head already, preempted them, Damo. So thanks for that. And how often do runners, road runners, trail runners, hill runners, whatever we want to, other categories of runners that we've had, say, I wish they didn't make a new iteration of my shoe, because my favourite was V11s or whatever, and they go and stockpile the V11s, and they'll have like 5 pairs in their running stationery cupboard for, the risk of the only place I'll be able to get them is StockX, where I'll pay 350 quid or something. Do you know what I mean? So it's just something that resonated with me when you were speaking there.
Yeah, so you'll notice. Sorry, go on, John.
No, on you go, Damien, please. On you go, share time.
I was going to say, you'll notice on the Normal website, like, they don't actually have that much kit yet. I don't know how, you can't buy gloves or waterproof trousers. They only have one type of pack. Now, I personally don't know what their exact plans are for all those different items, but they're not just bringing out stuff for the sake of it and saying buy our gloves, buy our, they've got quite limited kit at the moment, and hopefully it's because they're concentrating hard on making those bits good, because all that doesn't matter. All that sustainability doesn't matter if they make stuff that people don't actually want and don't actually use. So it's got to be good kit ultimately. So far, I've been impressed with the shoes, but I haven't tried anything else. But sorry,
I just want to go back a wee bit, talk about innovate, because you've been, for me, synonymous with innovate over the last decade, and I think they've had some brilliant exposure from you, because some of the things that you've done, FKTs and UTMBs and the Pennine Way. So I think you've paid your dues, if any were required in there. I think you've done that. So it's been a good relationship for both of you. But as you say, you get to a point, and now you're moving on to pastures new and normal. So wish you every success with them. How do you say it though? Is it just normal or is it normal?
I have checked this. Those were amongst my first questions. So I thought it meant new normal, but it means no normal, and they just say normal. So we've got to make it normal to say normal. So that is simpler. That's a
hashtag. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So normal, just normal. That's
perfect. Now back to running rather than the shoes. This Spine Sprint North. Where does that start? You say it's 44 miles. So where's the start point for that, Damian?
So it's basically from Bellingham, which is the last major checkpoint in the race, in both the full Spine race and the Challenger North. So it's just the last, the last sprint, as they're calling it. And there is already a Sprint South race, basically the first 40 something miles to the first checkpoint. Yeah. But I must say this end of the race is more exciting, more dramatic. I mean, you end up in Scotland for starters. But it's got the Cheviot Hills, which is 26 or 27 miles, the last bit of the course, and it's actually very remote. What's fun is they have two like bothies up there, and they do put some staff in there to just check you're okay. I can't promise they'll give you a cup of tea, but it does feel like it depends what they, how nice you are to them. It depends on the people there, whether you'll get a cup of tea out of them. But you could go in there and make your own cup of tea if you like. But so there are two like check-in points, and there is the So it's about roughly 3 hours from Bellingham to Burness, which is like not that hilly, but quite rugged and boggy and rocky. Quite exciting terrain, I think. And then you bang straight up into Cheviots. Sorry. So the highest point of the Cheviots is called the Cheviot. No, I've had that wrong way around. Cheviots and the Cheviot. That you can see where I get in trouble, right? I can do normal, but I can't do the Cheviots. I should have mastered this by now. It's the Cheviots and the Cheviot. So it does add the Cheviot, the highest point of the Cheviots, isn't in the other races, but in this race you do go to the summit and back, which is nice. And then there's a slightly different finish. The Pennine Way has two alternative kind of endings. It's like a film, two different endings. And there's a higher route down to Kirkyetter, which is actually more scenic and more time on the hill. And it was actually quite dry when the rest of it was wet, actually, in January when I ran it. So you do get a couple of different bits from the other races. But yeah, it's a cracking run.
And is that to be launched for people to go for next year?
So what they tell me is they've launched a summer one, but only with 50 places, because they just want to get the logistics, as in, I suppose, how do people get to and from the race and parking and so on. And Bellingham itself is quite small. So they just want to nail that before they launch the winter version. So the winter version at the moment you can't sign up for, but after the summer one, it will be launched. So there is a summer one with just 50 people, almost a trial run. And then it will be a winter run, which I think will be popular and really good idea. I can imagine myself doing it the next few years.
Definitely.
The whole Spine thing though has just went crazy, isn't it? With the interactions and the dot watching, we've experienced a lot of people getting more engaged with that, and it's becoming almost like a sport, and people supporting people they don't even know with the messages and all that sort of stuff is brilliant. But you mentioned tea I want to put you on the spot. What's your favourite cup of tea?
Got my mug here. I'm not, my tastes aren't actually that sophisticated. I am happy. I do like Yorkshire Gold actually, but especially I like the biscuit tea. I've only been drinking that about a year, and I thought it was just a novelty. Use the pun, but actually it's really good. I don't know if you guys have tried it, but it's got this sort of extra malty. So I'd say the first 2 or 3 cups a day are the biscuit version. Then I go to classic sort of Yorkshire Gold. But seeing as you asked, after about 2 o'clock, I do have to go to decaf just in case. I know that makes me sound a bit old, but you know, I do want to be able to get to bed about 10 o'clock and not stay up after 11 because I'm too old. I'm too old for that. So yeah, that's my routine. And I basically wake up. I probably have 5, 6, 7 cups of tea a day. Pretty much don't drink anything else. Maybe 1 minute tea in the evening. That makes me sound old again, doesn't it? But that's it. That's my hydration routine for the day. What are your favourite teas?
I'm Yorkshire all the way, man. Yorkshire.
Okay.
Just the standard though, not gold, nothing like that. Just Yorkshire tea.
Okay, man of the people.
Yeah. Stephen?
I don't drink tea
at all.
at all.
John, you didn't know this about him. You've had a long-running successful podcast, and you've never even. Oh gosh!
But
you've never started a vetting process.
I love finding out things about people. So here we are.
Never asked me. So
we do talk about coffee a lot, but that's a different episode. That's a different episode. While we're on the tea thing, let me just do. While we're on the tea thing, there was a picture of. I'm going to go with the girls' band because that's what people are using the term now. And you were making cups of tea over a weekend when the girls' band were out on the roadshow on the Pennine Way. How did that come about? Just because your pals were out running?
Well, I had already volunteered. I was going to be up around there. I was going to be part of a sort of trail running weekend that weekend in the lakes. And so I was going to be very close. And then I volunteered. They wanted the bags driven on from the beginning of the first day to the end of the first day. They already had someone to do that like the next 2 days, but I was going to be nearby. So I volunteered to do that. But then I also thought, in Alston, I actually had to stop in Alston as well to get 2 more bags from people who are joining partway through. This is probably more than you need to know, isn't it? But I thought, I could make them all cups of tea. That would lots of incredible female athletes. I don't mind trying to get on the good side, so I'll make them all tea. And I also got a few vegan snacks. However, the spot I chose was right by basically a cafe. So so I thought I was providing this. Basically, it's like a petrol station, but with quite a big shop where you could go in and get teas and coffees and even like pastries. So I thought I was providing this wonderful service in the middle of nowhere. And then when I found this exact spot, I mean, they could have just gone in. Some of them did, actually. Some of them, I think Hannah Rickman, without wishing to name names, 1 or 2 of them did just go and get their own tea or coffee. So in a way, it wasn't that well thought through because they're like, hey, everyone, here's some snacks and drinks, right next to a place that gave them snacks and drinks. But still, it was good fun. And it was, it was really cool, wasn't it, to see images of just strong athletes out on the Pennine Way. Having a whale of a time. They even seem to enjoy Blenkinsop Common, which isn't a common thing to say, which is one of the 2 most notorious bogs on the whole Pennine Way. But yeah, that was very cool to see, and yeah, almost all of them had really strong. I know you've had Mel and Lucy on the show, really strong spine racers as well, which was just it was the most competitive female race we've seen at the Spine easily.
And that's across the whole spectrum, I think, of ultra running. Strong female athletes, or they're shown strong female athletes everywhere now, isn't it? It's not just on the Spine. It's happening a lot. I mean, even Robin and Lucy's at the Lakes last year were phenomenal performances. However, I'd like to take you to the male side of things, if I could, to speak to you about a certain Kim Collison, who had 3 DNFs on the Stoat, technical term there, and now he's rocked up and he's won the Spine this year. Do you want to say a few words about Kim?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think he is one of my I think he is one of my best friends in the sport, and I'd put Jack Scott and John Kelly up there too from the men's side of things as well. But me and Kim go back to, we're both in the same GB trail running team together, and I really looked up to him because he'd been winning races before I was, and he was a bit of a hero to me. And actually, we both had a terrible time when we represented GB that time. We both had awful races, but I never forget that he made a point of saying to me sort of before we all went separate ways after the trip. He said, don't lose your fire. And that was really nice of him to say that, because I was newer to the sport than him, and that just stayed with me. And our paths haven't actually crossed loads, although we did the Tour de Gion together 2 or 3 years ago. Again, another race that didn't go well for him, but we recce'd it a bit together. And then we've run 3 years in a row. We ran certain early sections of the Spine race together, but basically he DNF'd every time, and that's what people do to get away from me, because of my dad jokes, and basically I'm so boring and old that people, to get away from me, like he couldn't run away from me ahead, so he just DNF'd, he just dropped out. And you notice as soon as I'm not in the race, he goes and wins it. So I was clearly the thing holding him back. I mean, Kim's been quite, I don't want to say too much. It's his own sort of medical history, and I don't know exactly what he said publicly, but he had some. It looked, for a few years, it looked like he was just DNFing a lot, but there were some medical reasons behind that, and it was to do with some health issues and some medication, and injury as well. The year before, so where are we now? 2025. In the 2024 race, he got further than ever, and actually he got over halfway, and actually he was much happier that year because he'd stopped this medication, and he was actually running really, really well. He was really he was much happier, but he still did succumb to an injury. But honestly, I was so happy for him. It was so nice to see. It's just, isn't it just a lesson to us all? Like, I suppose it's persevering, but it wasn't just that. It's going back to something where you've publicly failed at, going back. It might take four years, but it wasn't just perseverance. Like he's a really intelligent guy, and he does look at every aspect of training. And you can go back and look at his sort of social media updates since, and you can see some of the things he's been open about working on. But he does really go back and work on things. It's not like he's just turning up and trying harder. It's more than that. But he is one of the real good guys in the sport. He's a self-proclaimed introvert. He doesn't necessarily love all the sort of media stuff and talking to people. And a lot of the time I've spent on the trail with him, all very quiet. But great guy, and that was really, really good to see.
It was brilliant to see him getting that win, and I think you're right. But to turn up 4 years in a row at a 268-mile race, that shows some sort of mental fortitude as well, to be going back and doing that. So congratulations to Kim, a quite brilliant performance. And he was running with joy at the end. You could see it, which is lovely to see. How are your legs fresh in January? You've not done a 268-mile run for a while.
It's a bit weird. Yeah. I'm normally at this point, I'm nearly, usually a wreck at this point still. And definitely the last Spine did take a while to recover from. And I'm right at the end of my 40s now. It does feel like it takes a little bit longer to recover from these big ones. So it's nice. I've been out this morning. I've done 12 miles easy, with a few strides, and it's been a good day. So it's quite nice. I'm basically, my first big race is going to be the Northern Traverse in April, almost exactly 2 months from now. But of course, February is a short month. And it's, I'm excited about training. I'm excited about training again. So it is nice I have been, I don't regret it, but I have been guilty of going back and doing the same races. I've done 5 starts at UTMB, 5 starts at the Spine, 3 Tour de Gions. I do sometimes go back to the same races. I get a bit sort of, not addicted, but just a bit hooked on a particular race, which, not really a problem, but it's nice to switch it up. and then you just see, do I really miss it? And I must admit, with the spine, I do really miss it. So I'm not saying I'll definitely be in the full one next year, but I will. I'm pretty sure I'll do that one again in various spine races.
So you just alluded to our up and coming race, Northern Traverse. John and I, being the experts that we are, know what that race is. Others listening won't. What's the Northern Traverse?
So it's only a few years old, isn't it? Maybe 4 years old. But it's basically following Alfred Wainwright's route from one coast of Northern England to the other. So from St. Bees on the edge of the Lake District and through the Lake District, through the Yorkshire Dales, flew through then sort of a flatter area around Richmond, and then through the North York Moors, which again get lumpy. And it's 190 miles. But I hiked it before as a runner. I hiked it before I'd even hiked the Pennine Way, actually. In fact, that's when I first, I think, really heard about the Pennine Way, is that they do cross over each other near Keld. Yeah. And yeah, I hiked it years ago. And then I have actually ran it once as a record attempt back in 2021. I had a bit of a weird time. Stephen is alluding to the weird time by
that was the bendy body
leaning sideways. My friend Nicky Lager said I was running like a question mark. Yeah, I got leany towards the end, basically, which was almost definitely to do with my hydration, and essentially I think I overhydrated, and it's kind of comical and potentially fatal.
Quite threatening.
Yeah. So I did break that record, but it's still quite, what's the word? I mean, I'm a bit embarrassed. I'm a bit certainly very humbled by it, because I look at pictures and see someone who doesn't even really know where they are. And it did feel like being drunk. I was quite confused with what I was doing. It's also quite funny how I looked. But it'd be nice to go back, and run that route and not quite redemption, but just run it without turning into such a mess. So just in case anyone's listening, I do feel like a duty to sort of talk about it in terms of like the one thing I did differently in that race. We've talked about tea consumption already. I've always been a drink to thirst guy, because that's the current advice. That's the scientific advice, is drink to thirst. Now, I think things do get more complicated once you do 100 miles or more, because your mouth gets so disgusting that you sort of don't want anything in it. And I've definitely got a bit dehydrated at times. And I definitely have friends, both non-running and running, who go, "Oh, you don't drink much." I've had that quite a lot. And so for this attempt, I was trying to think what areas can I do better? And I was like, maybe my hydration isn't that optimal. So I did have a target of I think 500 mils an hour. And I had a target in mind. It's the only time I was deliberately trying to hydrate to a certain target. The other thing I did is halfway through, I had a slight tummy, like bloating feeling, and I cut my electrolytes out, which was probably significant as well. And I never got them. I forgot to tell my crew to put them back in. So I think both those things, more and more liquid and without the salts, over many, many hours, because it was maybe 39 hours. I can't remember, 36 hours. Off the top of my head, I can't remember, but we're talking, approaching 2 days, and you're causing the salt versus liquid in your blood is getting out of sync, and the cells in your body are swelling, including your brain after a while. So I was sort of losing contact of being able to control my body, really, which is kind of frightening. And obviously it looks very silly. So I would just say to people, if in doubt, drink to thirst, because I've gone back to drinking to thirst from that, and I've never had those issues. And electrolytes, electrolytes are a bit controversial in that the science doesn't seem to really say we need them. But all elite athletes I know add some kind of salt in some way to their liquids as you go. And I certainly need that as well. Otherwise I cramp quite easily. And actually I was involved in a study just recently. So I am a bit of an outlier with liquid. I was involved in a study just after Christmas, which I think Mel Sykes did, and yeah, several of the certainly Sarah Parry and Hannah Rickman, and certainly several of those athletes in the girl band did it. Andy Berry and Jack Scott did it as well. It was by Paul Booth. He was trying to get elite runners and get data from them, but also looking into high carbon fueling. Now, we were weighed regularly, and everyone else lost weight, and I put weight on. So the liquid I was taking in, so it proved that I need less liquid than most people. I've obviously got a low sweat rate. It's quite a salty sweat, but there's a low amount of liquid comes out. So that did show that I have I'm an outlier when it comes to hydration and liquid. But I would just say to people, drink to thirst is the safest thing to do.
We did speak with Nikki after that FKT. We did speak with her, and she spoke about that. And she spoke about you not being sure who the crew were. Who are these people? So Northern Traverse, is that is there other checkpoints along the way, same as the Spine? Is that the same idea?
Yeah, there are several checkpoints. So you carry a bit of kit, but nothing like the Spine kit list. And there are fairly regular checkpoints. And yeah, it's a single stage race, so it's trying to get there in one go. And yeah, it will actually be 6 months for me without a sort of a race, or so it's quite a good gap for me. So I am already raring to go now. So and April's an interesting time of year, isn't it? Because I quite like a winter adventure, but the weather on last year's race sounded absolutely horrendous. So I hope it's cool, but not quite like that.
Yeah. Just jumping in my head, are you coached by David Roach? Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Without giving away any trade secrets or coach client secrets, how did you change, or what modifications have you made by not doing the Spine? What have you focused your attentions on?
I think it was just a better chance for a fuller recovery, because I still did do Tour de Gion in sort of mid-September, and for those who don't know, that's 200 miles in the mountains, so it's another sort of 3.5 days. And I've normally gone for 2 or 3 years in a row now. I've gone from that to the Spine, October, November, December, I guess 3 months later. And I seem to be able to cope with that sort of turnaround. But you could argue you never really get, a good 3 month block of training just to almost do marathon training, just work on economy and get the speed back. And I do find now it's harder to get the speed back. And I had a run a few weeks ago now. I'd actually done quite lower mileage than had been set in my plan, just because life stuff. But actually, I had a wonderful workout where I was hitting the paces I used to hit a couple of years ago that I thought were behind me, and I was chuffed to bits. I was so I don't think we didn't deliberately let's have 6 months off of racing, but I just didn't necessarily. It just felt smart to dodge the Spine. I suppose I've still done a 44 mile run in there, so it's a reasonable stress. But yeah, I feel like I'm running really well right now, and it's nice to. I'm always telling my athletes, really, if we could have 3 months of no races, or even 6 months, just train. I think, and here's a thing, actually. Both me and John Kelly were on a podcast maybe a year ago now, and we're being asked about 2020, the lockdown year when all the FKTs went down, and we both said that we felt better than ever. And it was partly because, there were no races, were there? We're all training at home during lockdown, and we both felt the best we'd ever felt. And it's probably not a coincidence. We can't be sure. It's not a scientific study, but we both trained. We had less, there was a lot of life stress going on, I suppose, but there was less direct work stress for some of us. It's very different for everyone. But for me anyway, I was not traveling away to, do this or that. It was probably my best training spell ever. So we'll see when it comes to the Northern Traverse. Maybe this will come back and bite me. But I would just say for people who are listening, obviously races are really attractive and really exciting, but having 3 months, even 6 months, if you can, of good training, quality training. I think most coaches would agree that's probably going to bring you into your best shape.
Because it's almost like simulate a global pandemic now as part of your training.
Could you guys trigger one off? Could you do it? Yeah.
We should also give kudos to David Roach for his performances last year. It's like he's put a lot of his own personal research into place, and it's paid massive dividends for him. And I think there's more to come from some of the stuff that David's doing as well. So quite inspirational, isn't it? This also fits in perfectly with my secret question, what we've just said. Sometimes I get excited and ask somebody to ask a secret question of our guest. Weekly, yeah. This week, I chapped the door of Jasmine Paris to ask a question for Damian Hall. And what you've just been saying there, yeah, Jasmine's question is, how does Damian keep getting better despite getting older? Would you say to that, Damian? How do you keep getting better?
Well, it's kind that she thinks that's the case. I mean, if getting just a little bit further on the fifth loop of the Barkley Marathons it counts as getting better, I mean, I'll take it. That's very kind of her. I almost wonder if it's a sympathetic question, isn't it? It's very nice of her. I don't know. Well, am I getting better? I suppose the irony was with my last 2 spine races, this is very self-indulgent, but my last 2 spine races, I mean, I won it in 2023, and yet I didn't win it the next year, but I was quicker. All right, conditions come into it, etc. I honestly don't know if I'm getting better. It doesn't feel that way anymore. However, what I have had, which I feel very fortunate of, is, and touch wood, I've now had I haven't really had a proper injury since 2017. And there'll be people listening who'll want to give me a proper injury if I get too smug about that. And I have to be really careful about that. And I don't know exactly why, because obviously if I could tell you it's because of this and that, I'd be an amazing coach and I could probably try and sell it to people. But it's probably a combination of 5 or 6 things. And I suppose what I do is, my easy runs really are easy. I don't really care what goes on. I do put stuff on Strava, but I hardly ever look. I don't care if people think I'm slow or fast. Usually under David, it's usually only 1 proper workout a week. I am plant-based athlete for 4 years now, so that doesn't account for the whole time. So I doubt it's down to that, but it could be down to eating enough, which is, I'm lucky to work with Renee McGregor, and that's one of her main things, actually, especially for elite athletes, is sometimes under fueling, because we want to be light and fast, but really that could cause injury or just burnout. So I'm pretty confident. Fuel adequately, sleep. I don't always go to bed at the 10 o'clock we suggested, but I try to get the 8 hours average that we're recommended. They're kind of the boring things, I suppose. Sleeping, eating, easy runs. Always 1 day off, full day off. That's a David Roach thing. I must admit, I was self-trained for a couple of years, and I wanted to sort of not have the day off, and I do feel better for it. I would say I do the strength work. I'd say 3/4 of the time I get the strength work done. What else? I mean, and I think, the theory is anyway that what matters above all else is consistency. And so if you do those things I've mentioned to hopefully avoid injury, then you'll get the consistency. So hopefully it's another month, another year. So hopefully that's what's holding me up. But the thing that's working against me is age. So I am 49. What I'm hoping is that I'm sort of, I guess, controlling the fade or reducing the fade. So I'll keep doing all those things. And I don't know which of those things is more significant necessarily, but I'll keep doing them all.
I can see where Jasmine is coming from, Damian. I can see it. I can feel
Okay.
it. Also, when you mentioned you were talking there, it took me back to an episode we had around about this time last year with Jack Scott. And Jack Scott spoke about what you do with the other 22 hours of the day when you're not training. And it was just when you've been talking there about that lifestyle choices that people make, to get yourself in the best shape. And also that, going back to the previous answer that you've given about having had that time since Tour de Giant last year to maybe get rest and recovery right going into the Northern Traverse. All that, it's just doing the right things at the right times, isn't it? So I like it.
Yeah, I think that is, yeah. I know when I coach people, I use the word sort of holistic approach. What I'm trying to say there is think about the rest of your life, and everything affects your running. If work stress is high, relationship stress, young children, moving house, all those things, most of those things can't be avoided necessarily, and can occasionally be more important than your running, just occasionally. But let's try and factor them in. Let's try, if something's coming up, let's try and make that an easier week running wise, or let's just run 4 or 5 times that week, for example. I think just because when I started off, I viewed them as separate things. I think that's my running and that's the rest of my life. But they're totally interwoven. And if you're stressed about something else in your life, chances are, sometimes the run is a real stress reliever, right? But sometimes your running feels terrible and you can't really be sure why. And then you go, hold on, what else is going on in your life? Well, that might be why. So it's just having that holistic mindset, I think, approach to it. But yeah, your sleep, your fueling, it's all going to be part of your running. And another classic one, actually, like if there's a physiotherapist listening, they probably want to shout about chairs and say, all the sitting down we do. And so often, Stephen's getting up, so often, it's a cliche, isn't it? But physios are always saying, oh, it's your weak glutes. And I did have a good chat with my physio recently and say, well, is it just runners who have weak glutes? And he was like, no. Almost everyone has, weak glutes or underdeveloped glutes or underactive glutes, or so it's not, but yes, a lot of us sit down a lot, and that can lead to all sorts of issues. So it's that's another classic lifestyle thing that might be a factor.
I could dive in quite deep to some of the stuff that you've just been speaking about there, but it would probably take a whole separate episode to do so. So I'm just acknowledging that there's a lot to be listened back to in the last couple of minutes. At the start of that couple of minutes, did you allude to the fact that you're going to be jumping into a new age category soon?
It won't be till November.
Okay.
But yes, in November I'll turn 50. But I'm absolutely fine with it. Absolutely fine.
Class of 1975, mate.
Oh, you're with me. When's your birthday?
Yeah. Just a wee shade before yours. So I've got a wee window of opportunity to go win some of those races before you dive in.
Well, we can do a fist bump too, although there is the whole tea thing that you've revealed earlier, which does make things difficult for us to be friends, but it's more likely now that we're
I'm getting a taste for different things as the taste buds evolve and stuff. So didn't rule it out. Maybe this is the year of tea, John. Wouldn't it be fitting?
Never say never.
I quite like the idea of the biscuit stuff with that wee sort of malty, like a rich tea taste in the background.
There you go, man. There you go.
Let's start there.
That's the one you want.
I'm going to buy him some.
Normal supermarkets.
I'm going to actually buy him some.
Okay.
I'm going to actually buy him.
Perfect.
Just a wee pack. Didn't you just get like? Can you get it in like 10 tea bags?
Oh, I'll get 10 and
that's
give
limited.
you 2.
That's limited thinking, Stephen. That's what do they call that? Yeah.
Yes.
We need a more open mindset.
Here we are.
Massive box. 2,000 we're sending you.
I just was thinking about wastage, but then I'm thinking actually I've got the human waste bin just in my
nothing will go to waste,
John, so we'll be fine.
They don't call me Henry the Hoover for nothing.
Do you know what, David? I'm sitting here this t-shirt's the Glenmore 24 t-shirt actually, and it cast my mind back to when I supported John doing it, and at the end of it we ceremoniously binned his trainers that must have had about 2,500 miles on them.
Wow.
Served me well.
Honestly,
They
they were
served me well.
sensational. They were.
Impressive.
They took you to places that no man
Oh, human
or
should ever
woman
go.
or any human actually should ever go. So just a wee memory there, just when I thought about that. Sorry,
Still miss them. Still miss them.
I bet you do. I do. I remember seeing a wee tear in your eye at the time. But anyway,
Right, back to things that we want to speak about. I want to give Damian the opportunity to speak about Into Ultra. Over to you, Damian. What is Into Ultra?
Thank you. Yeah, it's only about a year and a half old. I was the co-founder of, it's a charity now. And basically the whole idea was, and still is, like, how can we make ultra running more accessible? Because, I mean, there's a bit of a myth that, all you need is a pair of shoes. But actually, I mean, most of the time you need a watch, and the good ones aren't cheap. And then certainly the Spine race, all right, that's the extreme end of things. But most races you need, a pack, tights, waterproofs, headlamp, and so on and so on. So, that's all. I'll be honest. Well, I say it's affordable to me. I'm a sponsored athlete, so I can get most of that for free, if I'm honest. But to a lot of people, that's actually a lot of money suddenly. And then the race entries, I'm not saying they're not fairly priced, but if you're new to the sport, you are looking at maybe a couple of £1,000s of outgoings. And then when you're new as well, you don't always know which bits to buy, do you? Like, you get a jacket that's not actually, a good choice. So what we've been able to do, we had a big donation to get us going, and we're basically trying to help anyone that wants to get into ultra running who considers the finances to be a barrier. And we actually thought it would be more the race entries, but it's more the kit. It's much more the kit. And we've helped over 100 people now. So I would just say, if there are people listening, if they think they might apply to them, or it might, maybe you got friends, or maybe just mention it in your running group, your running club. The website is intoultra.org.uk, and that's the sort of only way to, apply. But we're not gonna, we don't make the process too uncomfortable for people. We're not going to scrutinize your bank details, your bank records. But yeah, get in touch, tell us about yourself, tell us what you'd like to do, and there's a chance we can help people. And we do different things. Some people want some coaching, and loads of coaches got in touch offering, maybe coach 1 or 2 athletes for free or very discounted. Lots of races have been in touch saying they'd offer us places, some brands as well. So we've really been, it's a real tribute to the community. I'm pretty sure it's over 100 sort of brands and events have offered to help as well. So it's been really touching, actually, to be part of that. We are now, because we're a charity now, we are open to donations. That original sort of funding will run out at some point. So we're open to donations if people would like to. And yeah, I'll be honest, I don't do so much of the day-to-day stuff, but there are 2 other people there who do a lot of that. And we've got, ambassadors. Jasmine's an ambassador, Ali Bailey, Renee McGregor. And yeah, it's rewarding for us, and hopefully it's just making the sport a bit more accessible.
Brilliant. So we can put the website address in the show notes. We can do that. But any athletes want to go and find out, they can do that. But also any race directors that want to get in touch and give places that can be allocated to people as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get in touch.
That's really kind. We do find we are sort of athlete led in that, like, we do find most runners have an idea of some of the races they want to do already. And so we have had some races really kindly say, oh, here's some places, and then no one's taken them up yet. But that's purely because we let the athlete, we don't try and push them. But all the races are on our website, so people can have a look at the people who, which races have already offered. So and it doesn't take, it's not a lot of admin. It doesn't take long to just add people. And that's really, it's really kind. We're really grateful. And it's just, I think it's just a tribute to the community that people are so willing to help.
And it's open to all. It's not like aimed at any specific group. It's just open to everybody.
We are, at the moment, we are UK based. So it is UK athletes and it is UK races. actually, this will sound like this comes from me, but it's actually from someone else. But we do want it to be as green as possible too. So we don't. This might sound a bit mean, but we don't actually support people who are planning to do races they have to fly to. But also, if they're planning to do a race they have to fly to, what's the word? How much do they need our help anyway? I suppose. And we do a lot of the kit is sourced is repurposed from Pre-Loved Sports, who are a wonderful group who are doing a lot with sort of making sure kit gets used. But we do get people new shoes if they need them. But a lot of the other kit is repurposed. But good stuff. We're not but yeah, by all means, drop us a line if you want to help, or if you think it might apply to you. Just drop the website a line, and we will do our best.
Also, if you're part of a running club, spread the word about Into Ultra. Tell your pals, definitely.
Yeah, thank you.
Brilliant. Yeah. Can we stay on the green route just for a bit? How's your soapbox? You all right there? I'm going to give you an opportunity here as well.
Yeah, I'm going to stay on it. I like it up here. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Village Green at the National Running Show. I loved it. I loved the idea of that. It gave me a Kinks feel when I was in a sort of a musical. Kinks, Damian. Not kinky, Kinks.
Clarifying, John.
The Village Green Appreciation Society is where I was going with that. So tell us all about the Village Green and what happened at the National Running Show. There's lots on social media about it.
Thanks, John. Yeah, we just wanted to. Well, it was mostly Ali Bailey and Nina from the Green Runners, and Ali's been involved with the running show for several years, but she just wanted to, I suppose, help the Green Runners have more of a prominence there. But it is hard to, the running show is a business, and they want a fair bit of money for you to be there, and of course, technically the Green Runners aren't a charity, but they don't have much spare money. And again, Into Ultra a part of it. But what we did is we were able to get a whole group of groups and individuals with a conscience together. We all sort of chipped in and created an area. So yeah, it was Pre-Loved Sports. It was the Reaction Collective. It was Ultra Mag. I'm going to forget someone now. It was Into Ultra. It was Vertebrate Publishing, who I must admit, do publish my books and Ali's book. Innovate have like a renovate scheme, so they were involved. We didn't want a brand there sort of selling new stuff, but renovate, repair kit and sell it. So they were very welcome, and they literally had a sewing machine there. And Lauren was there, busy all weekend repairing kit. Darren from Pair Ups was there, putting his patches on the on DAPs to make them last longer. And he was working flat out, bless him. He on the Saturday he was there till 9 o'clock at night, and he was back in at 7 a.m. the next morning, just repairing people's trainers, almost always in the same place. Who else do we have there? I'm gonna upset someone, but it's a bit too late now. But yeah, a group of people. Jog On. Tony at Jog On helped as well. And for those who don't know, it's not perfect, but if your trainers are if you're completely done with them, transcend to Tony at Jog On, because he can either find a new home for them, or at least he gets them downcycled, he says. Which is better than just, I suppose, incineration or landfill. So downcycle means they end up as playgrounds, or they still get used in some capacity, which is still better. I really got this horrible feeling I've forgotten one or two people, but yeah, a group of people got together and created. And the great thing, the easy thing for me and Ali really was to just tap up our friends and say, come and talk, because some of our friends, I suppose, are people like Jasmine Paris and Nikki Spinks and Emma Stewart and Jack Scott and Hannah Rickman. So we got sort of, the cream of ultra running, British ultra running, to come there and talk. Dan Lawson as well. But we did some other things as well. We got some Into Ultra athletes to talk about their journeys. We did a session on sort of recovery runners, people overcoming drug or alcohol addiction, but really triumphing and running being such a key part of that. So there was quite moving times actually. There was a women's hour, which was actually, I must say, my idea, and it wasn't an hour; it was an hour and a half. I hate to mansplain that, but so we touched upon, you know, some subjects there as well. Yeah, Renee McGregor was there. She's got a new book out very soon as well. Where is it? More Fuel You. So yeah, it was. I honestly didn't think it would happen when, you know, Ali was very sort of, she's very kind of get up and go and makes things happen, and I kind of thought, oh, this isn't going to work, but I'll try anyway. But it really did, and it was really busy. Obviously, especially when Jasmine was there. It was absolutely. Oh, sorry, David Miller, known now as the Barclay photographer. He's got a book out, but he was selling prints, but he was there signing books, and nearly all the books, pretty much all of them sold out, and we were just absolutely chocker the whole time, really. And it was really rewarding, I think, because in that area, yes, you could buy some books and some secondhand clothes, but we weren't really pushing stuff. The rest of the running show, it is very consumerist. It is very, you know, try our product, buy our product. And we were trying to create a bit of an oasis away from that, and it felt like we did, to be honest. So yeah, very grateful for all the groups that came together and all the people who came to talk to us.
Brilliant. It sounds an amazing experience, actually. Stephen?
Well, I've been to the National Running Show just the once. And I know it was a weekend, actually. There'd been some troublesome weather for people getting down from the north in the sort of preceding days as well. So hopefully there was a few Scottish accents kicking around Damo. But you get that, John, you maybe be the same as me, you get that wee bit of FOMO, don't you? You seen all this, you've just, hopefully you've not missed anybody out there. If you're listening and you've been missed out by this fella, then DM him, get him tell. But
send me some abuse.
Yeah. But you do get that. It was like a sort of gathering. That would have been a good crack, a good place to be around. And a good positive vibe. So yeah.
Well, certainly that Village Green area is where I wanted to be. That's where everybody that was there. I know it was what's Sophie's name? Sophie was doing that 48 treadmill thing.
Oh wow!
She's
yes.
setting that world record thing. But when I seen the Village Green, I seen Damian sitting with a microphone with Nikki Spinks and Jasmine Pat. That's where I want to be, sitting listening to that. And I think where I'm going with this, soapbox activated, is that I think it's brilliant and beautiful that people with a platform and a presence use it for the correct reasons. And that's what the Village Green was all about. I think it was doing it for all the right reasons. So I applaud every single person that was there. So thank you very much for doing that.
On that note, sorry, John, it was we had this thing called well, there were two things I wanted to add. One was the absolute highlight for me. Wasn't actually chatting to Jasmine, although, you know, she's a friend and I get to chat to her fairly frequently. But it was Emma Stewart, actually. We had her and Nikki Spinks on at the same time. And of course, one is a former beef farmer and Emma Stewart is a vet. And for some reason, we managed to get, I did try and encourage them to, you know, talk about some non-running subjects. And they got onto cows. And Emma went into great detail about, I think it was prolapsed uteruses. And I was feeling quite queasy, but she was talking about how when a cow gives birth and then sometimes the uterus comes out and you have to push it back in. But she was talking about this with glee. She was very excited about it. And she was explaining that it's like trying to put an octopus in a letterbox. And honestly, it was one of the highlights of my sort of, I don't have an interviewing career. I don't love doing it, but I was like, wow, this is this is special.
This is your Michael Parkinson with Muhammad Ali moment. This is it, man.
Yeah, it was amazing. And Nikki knew all about it too. So she was nodding along and contributing. And I was like, I did not expect that, you know, to be talking about this. And also for Emma, it was quite funny because afterwards she was like, that was kind of like a room full of vegans. And I was telling them all about, you know, the insides of a cow. And the other quite fun thing we did, at risk of getting too self-congratulatory, you know, it wasn't all perfect, but we did this thing called roast and boast. So every interviewee we had, they had to sort of say one green thing they did well and one green thing they didn't do so well, because I guess we're just trying to get away from that idea of being perfect, which is just impossible. You know, we're going to have some sort of footprint if we live, you know. But we had some quite fun ones there. Like sort of, you know, Darren Evans. He does amazing things, and he actually has been campaigning against plastic. For those that don't know Darren Evans, he's the guy behind Pair Ups and is one of the Green Runner co-founders. He campaigns against plastic. He's got plastic banned for some marathons. Buxton Water, like he stopped them being contributed at the Brighton Marathon. So he, like, by going to the council and saying, look, this isn't in line with your sustainability values. So he's a you know, a pioneering sort of activist against plastic. But it turned out he's got fake grass in his front garden. So we all had a good chuckle about that. And yeah, just little things like Hannah Rickman is sort of 95% vegan, but she can't quite give up cheese. So she claimed to be 5% cheese. And Dan Lawson admitted that he was invited to a race. I think it was one in China quite a few years ago, but it was sponsored by Gazprom, who are like the Russian sort of BP, you know. And he came home with like Gazprom hats, and and he realized it was a few years ago when he wasn't really aware of like what sports washing is, but he realized he was sort of part of the sports washing problem. So all right, some of that stuff in a way isn't that funny. It's quite serious, but hopefully we got the vibe that, you know, we're not judging each other. We're not perfect. For the good things we can do, you know, it's hard to get everything right. And that was actually treated with, you know, Nikki Spinks, actually, to her credit, turned up with sort of some repaired kit and repaired head torch and was keen to show everyone. So actually it was really, yeah, I thought it was really revealing and just made it all like a relaxed thing. So that just sprung to mind when I was talking. So sorry, I think I interrupted you there, John.
No, I love roast and boast. That could be a new segment for us, Stephen.
I was thinking exactly that.
Yeah, roast and boast.
We could apply that to many multi things.
And also, but when you were talking there about Nikki Spinks and Emma Stewart, Damian, I spent a weekend recently with the Galloway Mountain Rescue. I'm just going to pick up on this. It's a perfect time, and it's almost like I led you down this path, but in actual fact, you found that path yourself. I was with the Galloway Mountain Rescue, and they're putting on this goes back to the lakes last summer, where I was running between, I think it was Boot and Wasdale Head, and happened across this girl who rolled or broke her ankle. Emily was her name, and the person that was assisting her was James Anderson. He was part of Galloway Mountain Rescue. He was taking part in the Lake 100, but gave up his race to look after this girl. Stephen and I then chatted with James on a podcast about hill safety later on, and James invited us down to take part in this mountain rescue weekend. My mouth always gets me in trouble, right? So I ended up in the Galloway Hills. Never been there before in my life. It was a training day. The person being rescued was Nikki Spinks. She just finished the Challenger North and won it, and she was then up a hill with her dogs in this bivvy bag getting rescued. So, but what they were doing, my reason for being there, was to help promote Bruce's Crown Race that's taking part. Emma Stewart has signed up to take part in Bruce's Crown Race. So again, we'll put the link to that in the show notes. It's happening on the 5th of April. It's a self-navigated course in the Galloway Hills, which are beautiful, but man, it gets right wet and boggy there too. You would love it, Damian, actually. So that's it. Thank you for that nudge for me to give that.
So you rescued Nikki Spinks?
I was part of the team that rescued Nikki Spinks.
That's what I heard. John rescued Nikki Spinks.
Yeah, and I patted her dogs. Now, also on that, I carried Nikki Spinks' poles down the hill as well, right? And I noticed in one of the Spine promo photographs, there's Damian Hall with these poles. My personal question to you, what height are your poles?
Well, I mean, it sounds, John, like Nikki Spinks' entire existence and all her records and achievements are down to you. But I mean, that's the message that's coming through. Thanks for saving her. I don't know, maybe 120, 115.
Yeah,
I'm not massively tall. I'm 5'9". I'd love to claim taller. 115 centimeters.
Yeah, that's cool because I'm I'm 5'9", I think, maybe 5'9.5", maybe.
I'm maybe 5'9 3/4.
That's because of your hair.
I'm
Right?
5'10", so
But no, the reason for asking is my poles are 110s. You're saying you're maybe 115. Nicky's are 120s. I noticed some
Nicky
people
is tall though.
Yeah, but I've noticed some people have got poles that seem too big for them. But maybe that's to do with how they get themselves up a hill. I'm not
extra
sure.
propulsion.
Maybe.
My limited understanding is that you sort of stand straight and put your arms at right angles in front of you.
Yeah.
And you should be able to grab them about there. But if you're in between sizes, I think generally it's better to go for the slightly longer, I believe, because then you can sort of push further behind you. But
you would want them too short, eh?
No,
mine's are spot on. I feel comfy with mine. Yeah.
You tried longer ones,
Well, top tip: buy a pair of adjustable ones before you go deer and commit to the ones that are fixed size, and then you can adjust them.
Adjustable ones once you've finished with them.
I gifted them to somebody who never had poles, so they can try them, and then they can pass them on. Sustainability.
Stop boasting.
If you cut that arm off in the middle of it, it would say sustainable. Okay.
It's full of nonsense.
Right.
Okay. I want to ask Damo what else he's got planned for 2025, because we heard about Northern Traverse, which is why he didn't jump all into the Bruce's Crown race there. Otherwise, he was going for it. Beyond Northern Traverse, what is ahead?
So I'm long overdue. We mentioned the lakes. I'm going to do Lakeland 100, which is long overdue because I've never done it. I've done the 50, and I guess it's because when I think about it, 8 years have been taken up by either doing UTMB or Tour de Géant, and that's basically too close to when Lakeland 100 is. So there've been 8 years, plus what lockdown, so 9 years when I couldn't have done Lakeland 100. I'm not sure how well it'll suit me in that I'm used to, I guess, a lot of hiking. I like a nice hike in a race. And Lakeland 100, I mean, it's decently hilly, isn't it? But it's not the sort of long, steep hikes that I'm more used to on the continent. So I don't know if it'll definitely suit me, but it is, pretty much our premier 100 miler still. And I always hear great things about the atmosphere, and I'll go and give it a good go. Sounds so it just always sounded great.
I look forward to seeing you there in Coniston.
You're hanging about. Are you working there or just hanging about heckling?
Yeah,
heckling.
That second bit. Yeah,
John,
heckling mohawkers.
Just for Damo's benefit, because everybody else knows this, John tends just to stand in the queue for the chip shop for 48 hours, heckling and eating chips.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
It's perfect, man.
That's doubly cruel because I would probably really want some chips.
And then back up the road.
He doesn't throw the chips; he just eats them.
Yeah.
I know.
Salt and vinegar.
Oh yeah, salt and sauce, mate. Salt and sauce and vinegar.
Salt and sauce. Wait, which sauce? Ketchup.
Brown.
Some places have a local sauce, and I found in the lakes they do a lovely. There's a place that Stephen and I go to. It's not called Cox Lakes now. What's it called? North Farm or something.
Trails North.
Yeah, Trails North. They do. It's like a Cumbrian sauce.
Wow.
It's absolutely magnificent.
It's like a hybrid brown sauce, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So sorry, I digress. Talk about food.
This stuff's important. No, I don't think I've tried that, so I'm going to look out for that. Thank you, John.
Yeah, no problem. I'll bring some for you. We'll stop off and I'll bring some down for you.
I'll bring some tea bags so you can pass them on to Stephen.
Yeah. I might even buy you a bag of chips. However, my question is around. You've mentioned the Northern Traverse and you've mentioned Lakeland 100 as opposed to UTMB and Tour de Géant. Is this a decision you've taken to stay local this year rather than travel?
Kind of yes and no. Like I feel like I have done most of the international races that I've wanted to do, if I'm honest. So it's easy for me to sort of go, hey, I'm racing locally. When I've like I say, 8 years at either UTMB or Tour de Géant and a couple of Barkley marathons. So it's it's more that it's I've done most of those races, and these two domestic ones have appealed to me a long time. So I'm going to do them. I think there's going to be space for either one more race or one more sort of record, challenge attempt, which I haven't quite settled on. But it's a bit of both. But it is nice to do the key races in Britain, I suppose, while I can hopefully still be just about competitive as well. So bit of both.
With this question later than I would have liked to, actually, but you've just touched on it. Will you go back to Barclay?
So clearly I'm not. I don't know if you say clearly with that race, but I'm not doing it this year. But I would still like to try one more time. Okay. It's been incredible. Like, I'm so grateful to have the opportunities. It's incredible experience. It's just this massive puzzle that I've been unable to solve. And I would try. I would like to try one more time. But it won't be this year.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, that's been a whistle stop, hasn't it? Just
hasn't it? I love it.
So do I. Have we got anything else on our wish list that we wanted to?
I think, well, my big question was the size of Damian's poles. That was my big note that I've highlighted.
That sounded all kind of wrong.
That I've highlighted. I've actually highlighted that, and we've covered that. So, but we do have the musical question we have to go to. So, yes. And I've explained, and for listeners who maybe are new to the podcast, Jasmine Paris chose The Impossible Dream that was inspired by, I don't know who the person was that was singing it at Barclay.
Sebastian Raychon, who people might not be aware of, but he's won Tour de Glaciers twice, and he got onto the fifth loop of the Barclay like I did. So he's got this wonderful sort of blonde curly hair. He's worth a follow, and he's worth looking out for. So he's if people in Britain haven't heard of him yet, he's French. I think they will. And you should keep an eye on it. But it was this amazing moment where it was me and Jasmine, John Kelly, one or two others, and Sebastian running along in the dark. One of the few moments where you do run on trails. And I think it was the second night. He just started singing, and it was honestly just so beautiful. And I didn't realize what he was singing because it was in French. And then he did a post on Facebook afterwards, and he said that was what he was singing. And I've always loved, Carter against Oppo Sex Machine have done a cover of, it's The Impossible Dream. And they did a cover of it. In fact, I was a big Carter fan, and I thought that was their song actually when I was younger. But I'm really chuffed that she nominated that. But it's just this magical moment. It's not what you expect, really, is it? Does someone start singing in a race?
And it was lovely to hear Jasmine describe that moment. It's been lovely to hear you describe it as well. And I think, given what happened with Jasmine at the finish of Barclay, the song was so apt. So massive thank you to you for saying to Jasmine about Carter as well. But now, Damian, this is your opportunity to add a song to the Young Hearts Run Free playlist. Your second song, actually.
Well, this is tricky. You did warn me pre-show I needed to pick a song, and I'm still struggling. I've got a bit of a playlist in front of me, and I am scanning up and down. So I'll tell you some of the contenders. Okay. And my problem is, the music I love versus the music that's good to listen to when you're running, because the music I love is stuff like the Smiths and Radiohead and the National and Joy Division, and most of that might not fire you up for a sort of park run PB. So I was tempted to go with Love Will Tear Us Apart, which is possibly the greatest single of all time, but I'm actually going to settle on Dove's Black and White Town. Wow. And that's because it's quite a nice marriage of the two. So it has got a decent beat to it, actually, that you can run to. It's maybe not in, and yet it's still an atmospheric. What Doves do really well is that almost euphoric melancholy, I think is how I describe it. And it's about, I suppose it's about living in a dull town and wanting to escape, which But I wasn't really brought up in towns, but like there's still a great feeling of youthful wanting to escape somewhere. But there's a really good sort of beat to it as well. So I'm going to go, Dove's Black and White Town.
I think we had both. That why hasn't that base entry into Love Will Tear Us Apart never been suggested before?
Oof.
I think.
Can I have both?
Yes, you can. Yes, you
I'm
can.
jumping up and down with
Love it.
excitement. Thank you. So that used to be. Do you remember back in the day when you bought a ringtone for your phone before smartphones? That was my ringtone. Although it freaked me out once when I went to turn the stereo on. Younger listeners won't remember what stereo is. With a remote control, I think, and I pressed play, and my phone went instead, played exactly the same song. So I'll always remember it. For that. But yes, thanks for letting me have that one as well.
Brilliant, Damian. Thank you so much. Again, these chats pass by so quickly, and we had a very loose sort of question list, but we managed to fill about an hour and a half. Can you imagine that? Who would have guessed?
Mostly you asking me about my poll.
We've done some promo for tea and for, I'm sure we mentioned some sort of sauce in there as well. Probably an odd biscuit. Did we get to biscuits? I don't know. Stephen, and you come.
No, I'm just thinking I'm pretty glad there's not so many letterboxes kicking around towns now, because I just got this picture of an octopus getting shoved in one, and now I'm just going to link that to a cow's uterus getting stuff back in, and stuff like that. So thanks for that mental image, and it's been great to catch up with you again, Damo. It's always a pleasure to spend some time in your company, and join us again soon, but we'll see you down in the lakes.
Brilliant. Will you be there as well, Stephen?
Oh, aye.
Are you running?
Nah.
Just eating chips and heckling.
I completely remain uncommittal about everything, apart from going to the lakes in some physical form.
All right. Well, I'll meet you both there finally. That'll be lovely.
Fantastic.
I'll bring some tea.
Awesome. Thank you, Damian. Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Take care. Happy running.